Hey everyone, my name is Adi. In this video, we will talk about drawing media. We will draw cherries together while comparing alcohol markers, pastels, and colored pencils. Let's start with markers. Creating a plan with pencil first can make it easier, because markers aren't erasable. If you use a blender marker, you can remove some of the pigment, but you can't erase it completely. In this case, there are two light sources in different colors. One of them looks more yellow. To mark its place, I used a creamy color. I'll add yellow later on. I'm creating a base layer with pink. I surround the highlight. It's better to make the highlight, the white part, a bit bigger than it really is, because you can always make it smaller, but you can't make it bigger by erasing, and sometimes what you drew can expand. The pigment moves further away. The surroundings are reflected in the cherry, and that's why we see some areas in the frame that are gray. Adding the colors of the surroundings helps to make the cherry a part of the drawing and not something that you cut and glued over the background. I use a crimson marker. I keep the lighter areas and draw around them. With markers, the more times you draw over the same area, the darker the color will be. But the range of levels of darkness you can achieve is limited. So to make it darker, I use burnt umber, which has a lot of red in it. I will also add a bit purple later. It's important to find a way to make it darker while keeping it looking red. It's also possible to add white with other medium, but in this video I want to show how to use markers only. If you want to see how to combine markers with colored pencils and pens, you can check out the video about the car. I use a bit of pink to create a softer transition between the red and the gray. There's a reflection in the lower part. I'm going to create it by blending the colors. I'll go over the dark color with pink, and that way they will mix to a certain degree. I gradually make the cherry darker. This part is darker. To create thinner lines, use a smaller marker and draw more quickly. Moving on to the shadow, that's a cherry cast. I start with gray, and I'll add pink and red too. This part is very pink. I keep a white thin line between the cherry and the shadow. Right below the cherry, it's very red. I draw a line that is more dashed, to make it feel like it fades away. I'm adding green. The top is more green and the lower part is more yellow. I also add brown to it. And a bit of red. I add touches of purple to the places that are the darkest, like the bottom of the cherry, but it's better not to overdo it. I go with the burnt umber over the purple, so it won't feel disconnected. Let's move on to pastel. Pastel is erasable, so you can create the plan with pastel. I'm just going to cover all the space of the cherry with a dark red, because I can go over it with lighter colors or erase it. There's no problem changing it. In the pack that I usually draw with, all the reds look pretty much the same. And I don't have a dark red like the crimson I used with the markers, so I'm using today two different sets. No matter what kind of medium you use, you might need to buy more than one set, or to buy colors separately if you can purchase single colors. I added gray to the frame. When adding a color on top of another color, they are going to mix the more you touch the area. So if you want the white, for example, to stay white, it's better to do it in one go. When the pastel you are using gets dirty with another color, you can draw with it on a paper to remove the dirty part. I'm adding a darker color. To wipe off color from your hands while drawing, put beside you a wet towel paper. To the lighter part, I add pink. To create lines, you can use the edges of the pastel. I think that pastel has a charm to it, even if the result isn't precise and detailed. But if you wish to achieve more control and to create more details, you can use pastels with pastel pencils. Just like we use charcoal with charcoal pencils. I smudge the edges a bit in the sides to let the border disappear into the background in some places. You can use a blending stamp to blend and mix more accurately. To the darkest places, I add touches of purple, and later make them feel more connected to the rest. I draw the shadow with gray first. I add pink to it in the upper left, and red closer to the cherry. I'm drawing with darker gray to create more contrast in it. I smudge the edges a bit. The shadow gets darker the closer it is to the cherry. In the lower part, I let the boundary be less defined, because I see a more gradual transition. Pastels are very good to create things that don't have boundaries, like fog, smoke. That's why I used pastel to draw the candle and its halation. I use an eraser pencil to create a clearer separation between the cherry and the shadow in the upper part. I can use an eraser to make it thinner. And now, colored pencils. I made the plan with a colored pencil, not a regular pencil, because you might not be able to cover the lines that a regular pencil made. When you draw a plan with colored pencils, be very gentle. If you press them too hard, it will make it harder to erase. Generally speaking, don't ever use force when you draw. It's unhealthy for your hands. If you draw with pencils that create a result that is too pale, work in layers or buy a different type. Don't press them hard. The areas around the socket are lighter. I draw them with gray and pink. This gray is actually called silver. Does it look like silver? I'm not sure. This time I will add more details than when I used the markers or the pastels. I draw in a circular motion of small ellipses. I use a watercolor paper that has a bit of texture in it. If you use a smooth paper, there might be a limit to how many layers you can draw on top of each other. To fill the white dots that remain, I will go over it again towards the end, and I'll draw in a different direction. If you draw on a colored paper, you can add the white. Today I use a white paper, so I'm going to surround the highlights and keep them in the white of the paper. I'm switching between the three different reds. This area is very dark, but it still has different levels of darkness in it. Compared to markers and pastels, I usually use a larger number of colors when I draw with colored pencils. In that highlight, I use cream color and I'll add yellow later on. It takes a lot of time to fill in large areas with colored pencils, and that's why in the video about the watermelon, I created a base layer with watercolor first. I'm going over the lighter area with pink first. I add some white to the upper part to make it look shinier. I go over it with a white pencil to mix the colors more. You can use a white colored pencil to mix what you drew or to make it lighter. I like that grey part that is trapped between the dark areas. I let it connect to the background. I add a little bit of purple. I draw over some parts with red, not only to get rid of the white dots, but also to unify things. To make it feel like one whole thing, rather than patches that were sewn together. I go over the red around the highlight with white to create a softer transition between the white and the red. Conclusion. With markers you can achieve a finished result very quickly. Unlike colored pencils, it's easier to fill in large spaces, but you can't get the same amount of details and the same precision. So if you want to add tiny details, you might want to try using it with pens or something else. I feel like mixing colors and creating soft transitions aren't as easy as with pastel, so it might be better to practice these things on a draft paper first before you try them in a drawing. I think that alcohol markers are kind of similar to watercolors in many ways. You can't go over a dark color with a light color. You build up the color gradually, and you need to keep the whites. I think that pastels are very forgiving. You can erase, go over things and do adjustments easily. So they are very suitable for beginners, but obviously they are not just for beginners. You can do amazing things with pastels. If you use them with pastel pencils, you will be able to add tiny details as well. And there aren't many mediums that allow you both covering large areas and creating tiny details that easily. With pastels you can get a finished result very quickly, so they are a good option if you like to create views outdoors. Colored pencils are very good to create a high level of realism. If you draw small drawings, then you can probably achieve an impressive artwork faster and easier than in oil colors. I think that for many beginners, colored pencils don't seem that scary in relation to other media. And I think they don't take as much time to get used to. If you create a base layer with watercolor or markers, you will be able to get a finished result faster. And you could create bigger drawings more easily. You can also do the background or part of the painting with a different medium. If you do that, it could be cool to use the colored pencils as a focal point of the artwork. I think that all the different art materials are wonderful in their own way, so I wouldn't say that one is better than others. But if you watch this video to decide which medium you should try, then I hope you can understand how to use them better. I want to suggest a fourth option: mixed media. For example, you can draw the base layer, define the light and shadow with markers, and add details and final touches with colored pencils, and draw the shadow and the background more blurry and effortless with pastel. That's it for today. I hope that you had fun. Do you like that type of video? You can let me know in the comments and share your thoughts. If you are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe. See you soon. Bye bye.